And listen, welcome everybody to another episode of the Live Your Purpose podcast. I'm your host, John Morgan Jr. As always, man, LYP is dedicated to telling amazing stories from creators and, really how they are been on their healing journeys to really, help each other, to have dope, authentic, organic conversations. Man, this brother that I got here with us, man, we've been chopping it up a little bit. I'm just so excited to have him here with us. I love what he's doing. From afar, I've been watching him, and I love what he's got going, man. We got brother Archie Green in the building, man. What's happening, man? The founder of Peel Them Layers Back, man. How you feeling, man?
Man, I'm blessed, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is hometown. This is where my wife was raised, down in Akron, so it's always nice. I'm usually down here visiting my in-laws anyway,
Okay.
man. So, but I love what you're doing with this podcast as well, man. So when I got the call, it was like I said before, I get hit up for interviews all the time. And I don't say yes all the time. This one I was like, I love what you're doing,
Well,
man.
thank you,
So
man.
I'm happy to be here.
I genuinely appreciate that. So let's first and foremost, man, before we even kind of get into your story, how are you? How's your spirit? How's your energy? Genuinely, how are you in this season? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm in a season of some transitions. You know what I mean? Like, I've been running my organization now for almost 6 years. And I've been like the face, I've been like everything. As you know, with entrepreneurship, in the beginning, like, you're doing everything. You're running around. And now I'm at a point now where I want to bring on more of a team and bring on more stories. So it's not just my story that represents PDLB, because, we represent black men and boys. So there's a lot of stories of trauma. There's a lot of stories of healing that need to be told in order to spread that message, of mental health across the globe. And so I'm at a point now where I'm like, all right, let me start, pushing off some of the, the storytelling, and let me start supporting and elevating the stories of the youth, of the people that we serve. You know what I mean? And so, like, I'm at a stage in my professional career where I'm big homie now. Like, I was the young cat.
The OG.
I'm the OG now. And I want to start supporting, and training other young brothers to tell their story, because every time we open up, every time we tell our truth, we help someone else heal. Yeah. We don't just heal ourselves, we help someone else heal.
Man, I heard somebody say once, man, they said, you shouldn't ask people what they do, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to, like, how they live in their life. You should ask people what happened to you, right? You know what I'm saying? Because that gives you real insight into, why somebody is really doing the work that they're doing today. Yeah. So, like, what happened to Archie Green along his journey that kind of led you up to doing the work you're doing today?
Sure. So, it starts really for me when I was like a little kid, elementary school. I grew up, for the listeners who don't know, I grew up in a small suburban town called Chagrin Falls. It was predominantly white neighborhood. I was one of very few minorities there. And a matter of fact, my last year there, which was my freshman year of high school, I was the only African-American there, period. Like, the teachers weren't black, janitors weren't black, none of my classmates, nobody. And so, I grew up in I was an outcast, from the beginning. Not just an outcast at school, but I'm the only, like, real creative in my family. Like, I think my grandfather, my dad's side, his brother was a musician, but outside of that, there's no other artists, there's no other creators. And for me, I grew up, like, loving Michael Jackson. Like, a lot of kids in our era growing up, like, I was the guy who, would dance whenever his videos came on and try to do the moonwalk. It's like for me, entertainment was something I always wanted to do. It was a seed that God planted in me. And I was the type of kid, like, my parents had got me one of those mic stands, little mic stands with the lights flicker and all that. And so on a regular average or random night, my parents come home, all the lights is off. They like, so I know they thinking, like, why are all these lights off? Like, what is going on? They walk in, and I turn on my little mic, and I put some music on, and I'm doing karaoke and putting on a show, like it was their anniversary or something. Like, so I used my dad's tape recorder. I was recording, like, a radio show, like, creating these characters. I always wanted to entertain. And then when when Hard Knock Life came out, that was when I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want to rap. Like, I want to be a rapper like Jay-Z, because it was the first time I'd seen anything like that before.
Right.
Like, I had heard other artists, you know what I mean? Like, I think the first ever rap CD I ever bought was Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise.
Oh, man.
That was the first, and I had heard Biggie and all these other artists, but when Hove came out with Hard Knock Life and I saw that video, I was like, I want to try that. I was 13 at the time, and I wrote my first rap, and and I've been doing it ever since. And so that's where my creative journey started. As far as my mental health journey, I was living with depression most of my life, and I didn't know it. I was undiagnosed. I didn't know what therapy was growing up. Like my sister, she's adopted, and she actually did going through counseling, family counseling with my parents, at times, but I wasn't exposed to that. And so I didn't know what therapy was. I didn't know what depression was or anything. I just knew that, a lot of times I was down. A lot of times I was sad, when you're going to a school, when you're the only black kid, you know what I mean? And nobody else really gets you or understands you. And so, eventually I transferred to a more diverse school, Solon. And this was after I had experienced a traumatic event with another student who basically had written, I had already seen like the N-word like drawn on the walls in certain places. And again, kids feeling my hair without my permission and all of that. But there was a altercation, a verbal altercation I got into with a classmate of mine who called me out on my name. And instinctively, I knew that there was nothing I could physically do to him. I'm one of one, the only black kid, black person. And so I know if I put my hands on this guy,
It would have been all
I'm
bad
done.
for you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I went to the, principal's office, and eventually my parents, just after that, they decided, okay, we gotta get him out of there. And so we went to a more diverse school, this town called Solon. And that's actually where I ended up graduating. But my first year at Solon was difficult for me because, again, I come from an all-white neighborhood, all-white school, and now I'm in a more diverse school, and you got kids that's looking at me like, yo, why you talk white?
Right. Yeah.
Why you always going to school?
Right.
Why you not skipping like
Right.
us?
Right.
Why you getting all these?
Oh, you read, bro?
You read.
Yeah,
Why you getting all these awards? Which is all self-hate.
Right.
Which is a byproduct of white supremacy.
Right. Correct.
And so within that I'd probably say the first semester or so, I wrote a song about ending my own life. And I didn't know at that time that was suicidal ideation and that was a form of therapy. Mm-hmm. It was what I was feeling inside. Mm-hmm. Up to that point, I had felt so dejected and so much an outcast. Like at my old school at Chagrin, I had suppressed this memory for years, but in third grade, like my yearbook, I defamed my own picture. I drew the devil's horns and the mustache and the beard because that's how I saw myself. Based on other people's impression of me, I had a very low perception of myself. I didn't love myself at all. And so when I got to Solon, I'm like, man, I'm finally going to be around black kids. And I wasn't accepted for who I was. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? I can't go to white school. I can't go to school with black kids. And so I had written this song, and that's another memory I suppressed for a long time, which again, you kind of naturally suppress certain traumatic events or things, to protect yourself from them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like protect yourself from being triggered.
Correct.
And so I wrote this song. Eventually things turned around. I only kept the song for like 3 days and I deleted it just because, I was like, I don't want to carry this. I didn't show it to anyone. I just kept it on my CD Walkman. You know what I mean? And so eventually I graduated from Solon and I ended up going to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, studied econ, graduated from Morehouse, magna cum laude. I was all honors, all of that. And when I came home, I ended up getting a job at a bank because my parents was like, this music ain't gonna pop off. You gotta get a real job. This is a phase that you gotta grow out of. You know what I mean? You gotta get a real job because the difficulty of making it as a musician or as a rapper is very slim. It's like trying to join the NBA, right?
Yeah.
And so at that time, it hurt me that my parents didn't support me the way I wanted them to, but I understood it. I understand it, you know what I mean? And so that was another thing that was kind of contributing to me feeling low, feeling depressed because I was misunderstood. I wasn't like, my parents and my family and the people around me didn't really understand like my worldview as a creative.
Right.
And so, I ended up, taking this job at a bank, and I really, I hated that job. I was a banker, so like I was the guy. You come in to pick up, to open up a bank account. You come in to apply for a credit card or, a loan or something like that. I was at a bank.
It was mundane.
Oh, it was so mundane. And I was the guy who, I went to high school with Kid Cudi. He was a year ahead of me, at Solon. And I remember like, having lunch in my car, listening to Pursuit of Happiness in tears, because I'm like, man, there's got to be more to my life than this. Like God didn't give me this gift of music, of writing, because at this point I had done certain projects. Like I had done, like back when Mick Boogie was doing mixtapes, like I had done some collaborations with him, so I knew I was talented. And the other like events that happened that showed me like this really is a thing, like I'm really good at this, is I submitted for a competition at Talib Kweli and his label Blacksmith Entertainment. They were doing this like almost like an unsigned hype project, and I submitted a song and he chose one of my songs for this project. And I'll never forget, I flew to New York for the release party. Mick Boogie was spending that night, and as soon as I walked in, it's at Le Poisson Rouge, LPR, in New York. He played my record in the club in New York City. Like what that did for me, as far as like, not just the pat on the back from Kweli, but like to hear my own song. The first time I ever heard it in the club was in New York City.
Yeah, that's
like
big.
that was huge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so eventually, I was like, I need to be in New York. I need to be where the action is. I was like, I don't care how, I just need to get there. And so I started looking at grad school programs for music business. And I saw that New York University had a music business program at their Steinhardt School. So I applied, I got in, ended up moving in with, my roommates, the place sight unseen. They were looking for a roommate. One of my roommates, Will Cooper, who's now one of my best friends, he had interned for my mom the summer before. So she was like, why don't you call Will? Maybe he'll know. And this is how God works. She was like, maybe he'll know where you can stay. And I call him up. He's like, well, actually, one of our roommates is moving out. I was like, say less, I'm there.
Right.
And New York changed my life.
Yeah.
It like